The opening round at Road Atlanta really drove home the importance of staying out of trouble. Whether it's lapping traffic or picking your battles wisely, drivers need to use their discretion. That will be doubly true at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where you're often fighting the track more than you are your rivals. Who will heed the lessons of Week 1? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 9 Sport Class, live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Each of the previous 8 PCA Sim Racing series were built with a themed idea, and Series 9 is no different. After Event 1 at Road Atlanta, it's obvious that the theme this time is traffic management. It's looking critical if you hope for a good result in the 30-minute open qualifying and the hour-long race. Patience and care in dealing with traffic can pay off across the Series 9 championship points race. Let's see how the PCA Sim racers do as the challenge to run a clean race continues. Also, Pirelli is back as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and today stands as a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tires and is an OEM supplier for Porsche. Find out more about Pirelli at www.pirelli.com. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After 1 year, Six Sigma now has divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpit and peripherals. As a PCA member or sim racing driver, Six Sigma offers 10% off from the website selections, and the coupon code is PCA Sim. More information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, visit the website at sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. Well, we are at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And as I mentioned, DJ, this is a difficult one for drivers. It tends to bring out the most difficult corners all around the short track around here.
Yeah, it certainly does, Joe. It is the very definition of an old-school circuit, really not having it changed since its initial construction back in 1961. And the area that we see Daniel Nix driving through right now, the S's that he's slipping and sliding through right there and making contact with the wall, really kind of presents itself as one of the few maybe good overtaking zones that coming after the long Mario Andretti straightaway, where in comparison, the first half of this lap, the one that we're seeing Will Kelly work his way around through the infamous Clayton and Quebec corners, are very, very difficult, pretty much one-lane roads. And then you come up here to Moss. You think this would be a great overtaking zone when you're looking at on the top of the track, but the truth is because of the camber, because of the rise and fall in elevation, it is just a difficult track. And don't even think about overtaking. Just trying to get through it is difficult enough.
Absolutely, and that difficulty in overtaking is probably going to be another theme for this evening that we're going to be talking about a lot. Before we get to the racing, though, just a reminder, if you want more info about the PCA, that PCA Sim Racing's social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Definitely worth subscribing to any of those, as you'll get all kinds of awesome info all throughout the season of this series. Adam Holland right now currently sitting in 17th, coming around in the middle part of his lap. He's put in a number of qualifying laps as they have this half hour, and has managed to get himself about halfway up the order. In fact, all 41 drivers have so far managed to get at least one timed lap in. And they're going to need it, because right now James Franznik, DJ, is looking like he's got quite the edge on the field at nearly half a second.
Yeah, it's really pretty remarkable there just how much Franznik has been able to hold on to the top of the charts, and I think part of that may have been a result of being able to run in some clean traffic. We're going to be talking a lot today about aero wash and aero push. That's going to be a real problem here through the first part of this lap.
Indeed, as we watch Gerling now as he comes through the tricky Moss hairpin, and he's going to miss that second apex, unfortunately, by a pretty wide margin. So this one's not going to be a hot lap for him, at least from here on out. In fact, it looks like he's going to park it, so that's going to be it for Gerling. As now Peter Sigourney comes up the hill himself along the Andretti straight. We've seen in the races from last week that the slipstream does help somewhat, but it's not going to be a huge effect. Still going to have to be brave coming into those S's for any of those attempts at passing throughout the race. Or potentially, I wonder if with the difficulty of overtaking, EJ, if the pit strategy is going to play a big part on those overtakes.
Yeah, I certainly think it could, Joe. I think if you're able to come in and get a good undercut on the rest of the field, that may be a good way to be able to jump ahead. We're going to have to keep our eyes on it, though, as it could be a situation where the overcut or the undercut could work, really depending on how that traffic is shaping out in front of you.
Peter up to 8th place with that latest lap of a 1:14.3. Huge jump up the order for him. Milorano, who was our winner in the first week, is unfortunately not doing quite as well in the qualifying, as he's only in 6th, and he's already done with that quali, as we are now completing those hot laps here. Checkered flag is already out. Looks like Chris Pittman's going to abandon his final lap, so will Steve Komatz. And that is actually it. That's everybody. Our grid is now set, so let's head through that starting order here today as James Franznik has put himself on the pole. There are points for those qualifying positions, so that's going to help him out. Daniel Nix is going to be starting in 2nd. Avijit Barua will start from 3rd, followed by Arnie Clayson in the 4th position. Then it is Will Kelly starting in 5th. Nick Milorano, as I mentioned, only 6th for him here in the quali, as Jeff Rosenthal starts 7th. Peter Sigourney is 8th, and Adam Gurley starts 9th. Akerberg Zona will round out your top 10, DJ.
In 11th place, it's going to be Robert Walton, followed by David Snelling with Kim Fricke, and then Charlie Boyer in 14th. Carl Boccieri lines up in 15th, followed by Curtis Crummell, Adam Holland, Patrick Gill, Steve Komatz, and Gregory Sampson.
David Boyer starts 21st. This Antonio Da Silva will be 22nd. It's Paul Nato on the inside of the next row. Craig Smith starts 24th with Gregory Gorell next. You've got David Kaufman in 26th and Peter Kummer in the 27th position. Chris Pippen starts 28th, followed by Joseph Evers in 29th, and then it's Scott Rogers beginning from 30th.
In 31st, it's Jeff Wilson, followed by David Palmer with Will Mungia in 33rd and Jason Finch in 34th. 35th will be Saurav Sangupta, followed by David Krutzler with Christopher Costas, Chad Casey on Colin Mazzola, Bob Moore, and Ward Preston rounding out your 41-car grid. Standing start here for today's race. So this is going to be interesting to see who can get safely through turn 1 and then through Clayton Corner. Tends to be a little bit stuffed up there for a lot of the drivers, having to take it too wide through those corners, which tend to be mostly single file in normal racing conditions. So keep your eyes peeled, because that could be frantic. It looks like they're ready to go, and the green flag is out, and it's not a good start for Nix off the line. He's already under threat for that second place as Barua is trying to take that away down through the first corner. Franznik gets a great start in his pink car and starts to stretch away. Barua is going to take second as they now enter into Clayton Corner, and very wide behind him as off the course Rosenthal is into the tire barrier. Yeah, and he's not the only one. I think I saw Robert Walton, maybe Chad Casey on, and Bob Moore involved in a little bit of a problem there coming through turn 1. Multiple cars off now coming down through Clayton. And it looks like a lot of people getting caught out here early, Joe.
Sport class is not going how the drivers would have hoped on that one. Milorano, though, making inroads early on. He gets up to 5th place here, coming down into the Moss hairpin. So nice run for the 117. Franznik now at about a second ahead of Barua, coming up the Andretti straight. Kelly sits in 3rd, chasing there in his pink, white, and gray car. Daniel Nix then back in the black number 16 as they head towards the S's.
As they work their way towards here, it looks like nobody's on the real attack up here in the first 5 or so right now. We talked about those S's being a potential passing opportunity, but they certainly not looking like they're going to be able to get anything done here. I think discretion proving the better part of valor here for a large number of these drivers.
We kind of anticipated that. Boccieri had a problem down the backstretch. He's slow for some reason. Not sure what happened to Carl in the 80. But of all the incidents there on that first lap, we had only 3 of them towing. Rosenthal, Neto, and Evers have sent it to pit lane. Any others that come into there, it looks like they'll have to drive it down in. Meanwhile, we're on board with Milorano here in the 117, sitting in 5th place. 1 position up from where he started. Our winner from the first event is trying to see if he can chase down a couple more.
And he's going to be hoping that Kelly and Nix up ahead of him get into a little bit of a scrap. That'll help him to close down the gap a little bit if they do start to duke it out a little bit more. Right now sits about 0.4 of a second behind Daniel Nix. We look out the rear view of the camera there, and we get an idea of Melorano starting to close in.
Interesting to see that Nix has the butterfly style wheel, the open wheeler kind of style of racing wheel, as you can get a number of different types here in sim racing. And driving a GT car, seems to be confident not having to do hand over hand all that much apparently, and definitely getting closer. Melorano has got that gap down to about 0.3 of a second, so apparently his race pace slightly better than his qualifying so far in the early stages, but it's a long ways to go. We're still only 3 minutes in.
Yeah, and I wondered, frankly, if we were going to see that out of Melorano, that his race pace would be a little bit better as we jump back in the field on board with Munguia right now as he tries to work his way forward. He is up from P33, Joe. He is a big mover here, up 15.
I wonder if he avoided a lot of those incidents that we were talking about there at the start of the race to help him net a bunch of those. So the 907 clearly using that philosophy of stay out of trouble to good effect. He's still got Snelling just behind him, and that is Scott Rogers that he is chasing in the orange machine, and De Silva at the front of this quartet. They break on their way into the Moss hairpin once again. Great exit by De Silva. Start to pull away a little bit wide there for Munguia.
Yeah, not exactly what he wanted to there. We're going to take a look at a replay here. This is of Melorano. I actually saw this happen live. Just got things a little bit wrong coming up into the Moss hairpin. Carried a little bit too much speed and went out into the outside. That's going to cost him 1 position, I believe.
Yep, he's down to 6. Arnie is up into 5th place in that 242 now. Both of them able to continue on, thankfully. We did have a number of cars that came into pit lane to take their spare vehicle. Looks like Boyer, Gerling, Boccieri, Sampson, and Krutzler all stopped in to take the spare car, and are back out racing once again. In fact, the only car that we have lost is the number 9 of Gorel. We still have 40 runners out on track.
Yeah, a lot of those drivers coming back in, getting their spare car. They're going to find themselves a lap down, obviously, but you can score points if you just keep on plugging away here. We jump on board with the Central Wisconsin region driver of Patrick Gill. It's Kim Fricky right up ahead of him.
They come on the Andretti straight once again. Sigourney behind as well. Holland and Fricky giving that little bit of a tow here as they climb over the crest. You can see just how much elevation change there was there, as one more little rise, and then it's breaking down into the S's once again. Holland getting close behind the blue 66, but not close enough to try and attack for now. Haven't seen a whole lot of passing here in the early stages. I wonder if drivers are just trying to settle in, DJ.
I think that's exactly what they're trying to do, Joe. I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of aggressive passing here early on. I would think in maybe about 10 to 15 minutes time, we may see a little bit more aggressiveness. Is here. We've got a little bit of a move. This is back down in 17th position. That was David Snelling trying to make a little bit of move. Oh, but Avijit Barua is off.
Oh no, sitting in 2nd place early in this race. That was into Quebec corner. Was it on his own? Oh, it was before Quebec. It was on the exit of Clayton. Clipped the grass, and that shows you how much speed they're carrying. He sent it sailing all the way to the tires at the next corner.
And that was just on a razor's edge there for Avijit, and definitely picked up a lot of damage on the left-hand side of the car. He's going to be limping his way home until he can come down into the pit stop, but we've got another close battle here as we ride on board with Nix. This is the battle for P2.
I was kind of watching him before that wreck for Barua. He was getting very close to Kelly, and so close now he gets a bit of an overlap coming up into the S's, but can't quite make the pass. So he falls back into what is now 3rd from him, as he was starting this lap 4th before. But watch out for Clayson there in the 242. He's starting to threaten on that black number 16 as well.
Yeah, he is. This could be a 3-way fight before we know it. It could come into play here. You've got to be very, very careful. By the way, Barua coming down into pit lane right now, so it looks like he's going to take some repairs. But you've got to be careful if you try to make that attack here, even if you're not running this close around another car, because if you get yourself offline, it's going to cost you tenths, if not a full second in time.
Yeah, he could become vulnerable if he goes for a move on Will Kelly for that second place. All this happening behind Franznik still, who leads by about 3.5 seconds. There was a little bit of a peak from Arnie, but couldn't quite make that one stick. Once again, the California driver going to get back in line behind, and they are dropping off of Will Kelly now. So what was a close fight with the 16 and the 6 has suddenly separated.
Yeah, looking like there that Kelly's starting to pull away a little bit, and that's partially because of a good exit there, but we got it right on board with Chris Pippen. Now this is the battle for P10, trying to make a move on Steve Komatz.
Side by side coming up into turn 8. Komatz has the inside, but sending it in deep. Pippen could cut across, and he does. Nice run there for the 0-4-2. It was an aggressive move, but fair.
It was aggressive but fair, and I think part of the reason that was able to happen so easily there, Joe, is taking a look at the front end of Steve Komatz's car. There's some damage to it, and speaking of damage, a little bit of contact there for Jason Finch.
And that was coming out of the S's and into White's corner as well. Did he actually make contact? I think he just lost control of the car. And Williams ahead of him looks clean to me, so they carry on. Let's take a look, see if we can analyze it. He's trying to approach here in that number 28. Very good run up to the back. Was he maybe caught out, or did he actually touch? I didn't see any contact there. I think he just lost control.
No, you're right, Joe. I just looked at that camera angle right as it came across, and I figured there was a little bit of a pinch, but it looks there like the 28 just carried a little bit too much speed into the second part of the S's and was paying the price.
Ooh, Snelling just had an issue as well in the Moss hairpin. He's going to try and get the car back on track here. That was some contact, it looks like, with Will Munguia, unfortunately. So drivers are now starting to try and make some attempts at passes, and some are good, some are not.
Yeah, and you've got to be very, very heads up on where you want to make the move. As I said, kind of the premier passing opportunities going down into the S's. But if you've got a chance here, I have seen some good moves being sent down into the inside of Clayton, a little bit more often into the inside of Quebec, but both of those require a lot of high commitment.
Melorano back up into 5th position, having gained the spot from Barua's incident. That puts him up 1 from where he began this race. He's still putting the pressure on the 242. Daniel Nix has caught back up to Kelly once again as well. So this is becoming a 4-car train here, as once again they get the throttle down and already pick up speed past 100 miles an hour and continuing to accelerate up the hill.
And this is where that draft is really going to come into play, Joe. But unfortunately, it's just quite not long enough of a straight to really get a good move. I think coming off of Moss hairpin, you need to be within about 0.2 to be able to realistically have a dive here going down into the S's.
And it looks like some of the incidents that have been happening have already raised the ire of the stewards. Kaufman has gotten a black flag, and so has Gerling. So I have to double check to see what specifically those incidents were, but we've had a few of them, so wouldn't be surprised if that was for making contact with another car there. Back up over and into Clayton once again, still chasing on Will Kelly. Credit to the 6, has been dealing with this pressure well, still sitting in 2nd position. That's up 3 spots from where Will began.
Yeah, and I think at this point in the race, that's something you can certainly hang your hat on here if you are Will Kelly, and starting to pull away a little bit. It looks like Franznik may be slightly untouchable at the front of the field, but I would argue in maybe 2-3 laps time, we're going to start dealing with some traffic, and that could potentially bring the 39 back into this equation.
Don't need to go to it, but Curtis Cromell was our latest victim of turn 2. Clayton corner just speared off into the barriers. Oh, look at this. This is Clayson, and another driver is spinning in sympathy to Silva with an unrelated incident, it appears. And they are both kind of stuck at the side of the track waiting for an opening to try and get running again. In fact, forcing Arnie to have to go into reverse just to try and get it turned around. Let's see what happened to the 242.
Well, this is bringing it down here into Moss. I think this is a little bit far back from where we saw the incident. No, there he goes. Just a little bit too much of a goose on the exit of the corner, and that is going to be enough to spin those rear tires and send that car spinning around. And then we can check back here. Basically just a carbon copy of that incident right behind him there for the 38.
Oof, yeah, and thankfully didn't hit him, but Arnie turned that pop art car into a bit of modern art, unfortunately. Is now missing the hood, and he's probably going to have to come in for repairs shortly. Actually, no, looks like he's going to stay out as we switch over to Sigourney in P8 up, well, no positions. He's actually still exactly where he began this race in that 014. He's still chasing behind Gill and Holland.
Yeah, and actually he and David Palmer down in 32nd are the only drivers to have not had a position move around on them, so just a little bit of an interesting tidbit there. But we watch the 111 here of Patrick Gill continuing to try to work his way around. He's going to be getting a little bit of the benefit of the draft from Adam Holland in front of him. Sigourney's going to be getting the benefit of the draft off of Gill, and that's going to create kind of a draft train here where it's going to be harder for Sigourney to try to get a move done.
There's been an absolutely bizarre incident. Arnie has had another moment. He spun it through Clayton, and Avijit Barua was the one collected. Both cars now out of it and in pit lane.
Oh, producing very, very strange incidents. We've had another one here with Gerling and Casey on Jeff Williams off. This Mosport circuit, Joe, is just absolutely catching everybody out today.
And Kelly's just lost second place. Daniel Nix has gotten through. It's all kicking off now. Yeah, oh my goodness, actually it was because Kelly had to take avoiding action for a car that spun out of Clayton Corner. Actually was on his lid. It was Chad Casey on.
My goodness gracious, Casey on there upside down, and yeah, you are right. That was Kelly actually having to go to the right side of the track off and into the grass there to avoid it, and he's under threat here to lose another position to Nick Melorano.
That might be because of some damage. Kelly actually made contact with Casey on some Melorano, smells blood in the water. He's going to try and see if he can overtake, and they're starting to stack up behind them. Fricky, Holland, Gill, Sigourney, all now in this battle as we look on board from back of Kelly.
Yeah, you want to talk about a draft train here, Joe. Kelly, Melorano, Fricky, Holland, Gill, Sigourney. It's all stacked up here, and it's really going to be to the disadvantage of some of these drivers farther back in the pack because they're just not going to be able to get a strong enough draft coming off of Moss Hairpin to really get anything to work, as that's going to be another car around that Sigourney.
Patrick Gill actually in the 111, so he doesn't hit anything, and somebody going off behind him. That's Chris Pippin. That's also a car that is on the lead lap, so that's not a car that is damaged. Looks like Gill gets it going. Oh, my goodness. We said that this is a track that definitely challenges drivers. I didn't think it would challenge them this hard.
Neither did I, Joe. That Clayton corner, I will have to say, though, it is particularly quick, particularly tricky in GT4 machinery. If you're running around here an open wheel or something with a little bit more downforce, you can take that corner pretty much flat out. But if you are in a GT3 machine, you either have to lift off ever so slightly as you come through the corner, or you have to absolutely nail your apex to the millimeter. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself out and off into the grass, and it has just caught out its fair few of drivers here today.
It caught out two more, Mazzola, and Snelling, the latest to find themselves off into the tire barrier out at Clayton Corner. My goodness. I wonder how many we're going to see manage to get to the finish of this race, because this track is just destroying the field today. But Franznik has been up at the front of it, just rifling off the laps bit by bit up there. It is still Nixon second. Kelly is actually settled in despite the contact. The car seems to be running okay now, and he is in third, having pulled away from Melorano.
Yeah, he looks relatively comfortable, and I've taken a look at that number 6 machine. It looks to be relatively intact. I don't see any splitter damage, which would be the biggest thing that I would be worrying about for Will Kelly, because if he were to have a little bit of that splitter damage, what that would mean is he wouldn't have quite the turn in medium to high-speed corners, and, well, that's pretty much all this track is.
Yeah, exactly. It has a variety of corners, but one thing that doesn't switch up a lot is the speed. As we continue to follow them through the end of the lap, we're down to 26 cars left on the lead lap of 41 starters. And in fact, we might be down to about 33 that are still out on the track itself. as a number of them have retired in recent time here, as we continue to watch the 39 of Franznik with that bright pink car, and ahead of him David Kaufman having to gather it up, and thankfully does not get hit by our leaders. We switch over instead now a little bit farther back. This is a chase down the hill through Clayton with the likes of Coomer in the 333 trying to pass on Komatz for 8th, and Komatz goes defensive down into Quebec. Would this mean maybe the over-under for Peter? Doesn't look quite like it.
No, I think their Komatz was able to hold it off, and what really set that up, Joe, was that car looked a little bit squirrely coming down through Clayton. It just looked a little bit off-center, a little bit off-kilter. Now, the other thing to keep in mind on all of this is that yellow 111 there, that was Patrick Gill starting to close back up onto the back, but we've got to focus in here on Will Kelly, because I think he's going to have a move on Daniel Nix through the S's.
Wow, he wants the spot back, and in fact, he's not taking no for an answer as he gets to the inside of turn 9, then it switches back into 10 through White's corner. He's still got a little bit of an edge. He's got the momentum, but he's going to be on the outside into turn 1. Does he try to cut down? No, he's going to leave space. Nix doesn't have the speed. I can't believe that Kelly has gotten that spot back.
Neither can I. That was sheer aggression to be able to hold that out around the outside, and just faith in the car for Will Kelly. I think it goes without saying that there is no damage on that number 6, because I don't think Kelly would have been able to do that if there was a little bit on it.
Absolutely. He must have gotten away extremely lucky, and yeah, looking at it, the car looks okay here. So he carries on, he pushes forward and gets back into P2 the hard way. Daniel Nix still keeping a threat on Will as they go through the hairpin. Melorano on the back of them. Kim Fricke doing a fantastic job today, by the way, up 8 positions from the start.
Yeah, up 8 positions within striking distance of this group at the front of the field, really for podium contention. So Fricke doing a fantastic job, only about 0.4 of a second here behind Melorano as they dive their way through the S's. And let's not forget, they're up 8 positions. That's only in about 20 minutes of racing.
We had a 3-car incident or something. Yeah, it looks like Costas, Ankerberg, Zona, and David Boyer all coming together, and then Ward Preston spun at the same time into Moss Corner. Not sure how many of them were able to carry on. There's so much happening out here as we continue to watch the battle up towards the front for second place. It's basically trying to decide who is best of the rest, and now they start to have to overtake some lap traffic. David Kaufman in front of them. We got to remember, this has also been a bit of an issue, both in the first round and now in this one. Is there you see it on board, as they are very much mixed up around the track because of so many incidents.
Yeah, they really are. You're going to be coming up against a whole bunch of them here, as that is going to be Kaufman right up ahead of them that they're going to have to deal with right now. But it looks like Nix may have a little bit of a run here. Could that draft up the back of Kaufman be the saving grace for Will Kelly?
Nix fights back, and he's going to try and do the same thing that Kelly did to him. Go around the outside through turn 8. Did he learn any tricks from that? Oh, pinches down, almost a little bit of door banging there. Think maybe they got away with it, but no, he can't quite pull off the same move, as Kelly will deny him.
Yeah, Kelly's going to be able to hold that out and do a very good job. That was some aggressive but fair racing in between the two. And I think here for Nix, he's going to have to sort of re-rack and restack and maybe think about a different way to try to get it by, because Kelly looks almost unbeatable through the S's.
If I'm honest, DJ, I'm kind of amazed that they were brave enough to beat doors like that, because considering how easily other drivers have lost control just on their own, they are really pushing their luck. And it looks like Kaufman is going to push the issue, as he is not relinquishing. Now he's lifting, finally letting him by. But Nix is right on top of Kelly, because he had a hard time going the long way around to Quebec.
Yeah, he did. A little bit of a squirrel there.
Oh, no. That was Kaufman, unfortunately, with contact with Kim Fricke, and he got sent into the barrier. And Peter Sigourney, unfortunately, off in a separate incident in the same corner.
I think that was just a little bit of incident fixation there for Sigourney. He saw the spinning Kaufman and just tried to avoid it. Oh, we've got a very rough car. Kaufman is smoking. I think that is going to be day done and dusted for him. That car looks like it's got some motor problems.
That's a bit of a shame. He was just trying to get to the end here today. I don't know if they're going to be handing out champagne or bandages after this one. This has been a massacre out there.
Yeah, it really and truly has. This is just proving very, very difficult for these drivers. But what it's done up at the front of the field here is it's separated a few out. Sigourney's going to be coming down pit lane, though, on this lap. Bit of an early stop. I would anticipate drivers probably try to take this to about the 30-minute mark, or at least to about 40 potentially. That's where I think the fuel tanks will go. But I think Sigourney is just saying, I've had enough of this. Let me get out of the way.
Off track goes Will Kelly. A simple mistake, which sometimes here leads to more dire results. This time he's able to get away with it. Nix just slides through as they exit out of Quebec corner. Just clipped the grass there, did Will Kelly, and back down to third he goes. How many times are they going to be trading positions today?
I think it very well could be to the absolute end of the race here, Joe. It looks very, very tricky to try to be able to get on by here for a lot of these drivers. It is incredibly difficult. And to that point about what Will Kelly did there coming through Quebec, that's just a simple matter of getting onto the throttle pedal a hair too early and picking up a little bit of understeer on the exit of the corner. Very easy to do.
And by the way, in the midst of all this chaos, we will still have scheduled pit stops for these drivers. So watch out for that, and that could definitely shake things up even more from what we've already had out here on the circuit. But if you are on the circuit right now, the goal is just keep the car in good condition and keep it on the track. Boccieri back here definitely having to do that on top of having to defend on De Silva and Sampson behind him.
Yeah, trying to hold on here is Boccieri right now. He's going to be getting a nice helping of the draft coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway. Let's see if he's able to take advantage of it. That's a lot more close-in than I thought he was going to have on the back of Bob Moore. He's going to send it around the outside. Let's see if he can do what Will Kelly did earlier.
He's hanging tough. That'll give him the inside down into turn 9. And unfortunately, he has to back out of it. Gets chopped off by Bob Moore. And Sampson also put offline by that. De Silva capitalizes. He moves into 16th position.
Right, so there you see just one little mistake leading to an opportunity. That's the way you've got to drive Mosport, Joe. You said it at the beginning of the race. This is almost more about driving the track and trying to beat the track than it is driving against your other competitors.
Oh, bad news for fans of Kim Fricke because of that incident with the lapped car. He has had to take a black flag and is in pit lane now, so he is serving that. He's not allowed to take his pit stop as he serves this black flag, so this is just going to add on to his woe.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's going to have to come back down into pit lane as we keep our eyes here on the battle. Komat's leading the way over Patrick Gill. And I want to get another look at the front of Komat's car. Yeah, there's some pretty hefty damage there to the front, in particular in that splitter. So I think this could be a little bit of a sitting duck situation for Patrick Gill if he's able to close in.
Well, speaking of flying creatures, Jason Finch is in there flitting about behind Patrick Gill, hoping to try and take that 7th place. So watch out for that. There he is in that orange number 28. And Kim Fricke just came out behind them. That is for position. That is not a lap down for Kim Fricke.
No, it is not. Fricke is trying to be able to recover a little bit and move his way back up forward from the good positions that we saw him in earlier. But right now, he's just going to close in on the back. Let's see if that front end damage here to the front of Komat's is going to hurt him in a straight line. It certainly looks like it is. Patrick Gill's getting a good toe. He's going to poke his nose to the outside. Little bit of a pinch there from Komat's as they come in through the S's.
Doesn't quite have the grip. He has to give up the ghost. Komat's is going to be able to stay ahead. We have seen passes around the outside multiple times in many different cars here around that corner, but it takes a bit of a special touch, and it looks like Gill doesn't have that for now.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful, and now it's going to open up the opportunity for Jason Finch. Look at that orange machine closing in behind the yellow of Patrick Gill. He could find himself under a little bit of an attack, and they've got to watch out from behind because that's Kim Fricke ready to pick up the pace.
And remember, after his penalty, Fricke's got to have the red mist down right now, so he's probably going to be a little bit aggressive here to try and get positions back as they come up to Komat's once again. Bob Moore, who is a lap down, is ahead of him. That might play a part. Great run by Gill now as he approaches on Komat's. And, oh, did Fricky get a position? He did. He's ahead of Finch. What happened?
It looked like Finch just got out of the way. I don't know if that was Finch not wanting to be involved in the battle or potentially picking up a slowdown at a point on the track. The only place that I could think he would have gotten that, Joe, would be coming through turn one, and he had to bleed that time away at the last possible minute.
Yeah, that's a bit strange there. Not sure if he's just not willing to mess with the faster car behind him or what. But they stay in order. Moore still ahead of Komats, ahead of Gill, ahead of Fricky. And Moore is not in a battle for position in and amongst these guys. He's got to try and make sure that he stays safe and doesn't hold them up. As you can see them really pushing the limits, kicking up the dirt, coming out of White's corner, plunging down through turn one towards Clayton. Still not giving up very quickly. He's not obliged to move over, but he doesn't want to hold them up too much. Ooh, they gain a lot down through Clayton.
Yeah, they gained a whole heck of a lot there down through Clayton, and now here they come through Quebec. I've got to think he's going to be wanting to move out of the way here before they get to Moss. Yep, there's the move out of the way.
That's Fricky in the foreground that we saw in that blue machine. Just went a little wide coming through Quebec, and he gives up that spot that he had so easily earlier.
Yeah, just gave it on up there with a little bit of mistake, and I think that was maybe trying to look ahead on the track, see where that lap car was going to be, and sort of plan your moves out a little bit as they go, and just thinking too far ahead. But now we've got a little bit of a battle. Finch looking pretty powerful on the back of Gill.
Yeah, that's more trying to stay off to the side, but he might play a part unless he lifts here. And as they come into the corner, Finch is not going to be able to get it. Gill holds him back. He retains that 7th position.
Yeah, he's holding on to it here. Let's see if anybody decides to dive off into pit lane with 32 minutes remaining left in the race. No, I don't think so. And again, as we look here at Steve Komats at the front of this shot, I want to give massive credit to the 210. That car looks like it has been through the wars. The front splitter, the front end, very, very damaged, and he is still putting down very competitive lap times.
Yeah, not doing too bad. So as he sends it down into Quebec, all he has to do is just keep it together. Seems to really have a handle on this car, despite having been in the thick of it here today. I've been hearing more cars coming down pit lane. Trying to see if we had anybody finish a scheduled stop, though, amongst them. I do see Peter Sigourney has been in and out with a 15-second stop. That might actually be a scheduled one. He's still running in 12th. So curious if he has finished his fuel and is able to make it to the finish from here. That was 5 laps ago they did that, so that should be within the pit window. Here we go again, coming up towards the S's once more. Gill versus Finch. Finch around the outside, but he breaks a little early.
Yeah, it just didn't look like he had the full run there. I think that was Finch sort of recognizing not wanting to go for the move. If I was in his position, Joe, I'd think about coming down pit lane, seeing if I could get him that way, but there's contact!
Oh, and off goes Patrick Gill into the barrier on the pit lane. That's so easy to hit the wall. Oh, he's going to take a toe, so he must have hit pretty hard there. Here's a replay on that one. Did he clip the grass? No, he got help. Oh, no. I suspect that's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there, and I think for Finch, I think the problem was he just didn't necessarily expect the slowdown there, just how slow Gill was going to come through that corner, and that was just enough to send him around.
Well, with so much going on, we do want to take a quick moment to mention that driving technique, car setup, and telemetry analysis are just a few things that you need to squeeze every last tenth out of your lap time. Join our very own physicist, Nicky Chan, who you may know from his P4 finish in last season's Pro Class, as he explains all this and more in scientific yet easily digestible YouTube videos at lasttenth.com. Watch today so that you can enjoy squeezing every last tenth off of your last time and beat those personal bests. Last tenth, better car, better driver. We watch our leader, James Franznick, who's really been squeezing every last tenth out of his race so far, is about 3.5 seconds ahead of Daniel Nix. I'm not sure if he's just managing the gap or if Nix is really keeping him honest here, DJ.
Well, I've been looking at the lap times here, and I think he's just doing a little bit of management here at this point. His last lap was about a 15-1, 15-2, whereas Nix's last lap was about a 14-7. So it certainly looks like at this stage of the race, Nix has got more speed. I think Franznik is just doing what he needs to do here at this point, keeping an eye on that gap and trying to manage traffic the best that he can, because that's been a big problem. He's had to cut his way through a fair few amount of drivers here early on.
A nod to Steve Komatz in the 210. He did make contact with the wall recently out of Moss Hairpin. He came in and took his spare car, got his fuel, and he's back out. So I think he might not lose too much time. He's in 16th currently, just behind the 333.
Yeah, there is Komatz, fresh set of paint there on that car as he's going to be able to continue on, and I guarantee you that car is going to be feeling a lot healthier now that he has been able to get that front end damage repaired. I would not be surprised if we see some absolutely blistering times out of the 210.
All right, DJ, we've passed the halfway point. Do you think you can do all that all over again?
I don't know. I may need a little bit of heart medicine to do that again. This is just getting my blood pressure up.
Yeah, it has been frantic out there. It's hard to keep track of everything that's happened, frankly. And we see a battle coming up towards the S's once again as they dive to the side. David Boyer allowing some of our lapping cars through. Boccieri trying to keep Sampson from being able to take that 12th position away. Neither of them electing to pit this time they should have about 15 more minutes before they should be out of the pit window.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see a couple of these drivers try to take this as long as they possibly can. As we check back in on the battle for P2, Will Kelly really able to carry some good speed down through the S's and down through White's corner. That has really been his best part of the track. We've got some bad news for fans of the 111. Patrick Gill, an official retirement from the race.
Ooh. Not the first. I'm guessing it's not going to be the last, as we have lost about a dozen of them up to this point. I'm kind of curious if, as we watch this battle here between Nix and Kelly, that just won't go away. If Peter Sigourney has finished his scheduled pit stop, he's 48 seconds behind the leader. That's not too far back. I think the 014 is theoretically in the hunt for a podium here.
I think he is as well, Joe. Was looking at my timing and scoring screen. Sigourney's cone-to-cone time was about 44 seconds. So that's going to put him very, very close here in the running with these drivers. He may have to push his way up a little bit more, but he's going to be darn close to Nix and Kelly.
So they got to be worried. It's about 47 seconds behind the leader. Curious what kind of lap times he's running, actually, as we check in with Singupta, who currently runs in 23rd. One of our drivers who is a lap down and does appear to have taken his stop. So he's got his fuel and is ready to go to the finish. Have we had something happen to Scott Rogers in the 737? Because he just disappeared. And I think that may have been a connection issue. Yeah, this appears to have been a connection issue because he has not come back onto the screen, and he has since been grayed out for me, but he didn't have any major incident that I could see. So that's a bit of a shame for him because he was running within the top 15.
Yeah, he was having a very good day out there and waiting for official confirmation to see if that was an internet connectivity issue that did scupper his chances. We'll be able to tell you here in just a few moments' time as we continue to watch drivers circulating their way around. And now, Joe, is the point of the race where those who haven't taken the pit stops, I think traffic should be the dictating factor here. If you're going to be coming up on a couple of lapped cars right in front of you, peel off on into pit lane. Use that as a way to be able to get around some of these other cars and go for that little bit of an undercut.
Yep, there goes our leader. Oh, here you go. And I think he's taking your advice as Franznik was coming up on some traffic and decided now's a good time as any and pits in. So let's watch to see where Sigourney winds up in relation. He's now coming up into the Moss hairpin as James is looking for his pit stall, which should be the very last one since he had the pole position. Here is on board with Peter up the Andretti straight. James hits his marks and is now taking his fuel. We're looking at about 15 seconds. Should be a quick out to the cones here for him.
Yeah, it should be very quick indeed. 15.3, that's right in line with what we've seen from a lot of other drivers as he gets back onto the loud pedal. A cone-to-cone time there of 42.17 seconds, so a little bit slower cone-to-cone than we've seen from a few other drivers, but still right about in line in terms of where Sigourney is in relation to everybody. It does look like he's going to be a little bit farther back.
He's about what looks like 16 to 17 seconds back from Franznik, so not quite up to the podium, but certainly going to be within the top 10. And looks like Nix, who continues to lead, is coming up to the pit entry right now and is actually coming in. Kelly stays out, though.
Yeah, Kelly stays out. Nix is going to be coming on in, and that's going to set up an interesting little bit of a challenge here. Now, I think for Kelly, he has got to hope that he is going to be able to clear and get by some good lap cars. Looks like he's got a nice stretch of road in front of him, so he'll be able to run pretty clearly.
Yeah, Franznik was about 3.5 seconds ahead, so shouldn't be super close, but Nix could gain a bit of time depending on how quickly his pit stop is executed here. Looks like Franznik coming onto the front stretch now. Nix just finishing his pit stop, and he's on his way out, but looks like James is easily passed. What's the difference? Ooh, it was more than a second longer for Daniel. That was a slow pit stop.
It was, but crucially, cone to cone, he only lost about 0.5 of a second, Joe, so it's not nearly as deadly as it could have been. The real question is going to be here, though, is if by going a little bit longer, if Will Kelly's been able to save a little bit of fuel, maybe keep a little bit more in the tank, and maybe just be a little bit quicker.
So now we wait for Kelly and Holland to pit in. We also need Kim Fricke.
That's Kelly around!
Oh, no! Our current leader, who was fighting for a second place, has suddenly spun it, and I suspect we're going to see that Porsche come in, take a spare car. Oh, and there's another spin in front of him. David Boyer seems to have had a similar issue and is pitting in just in front. So that might be the battle done for Will Kelly, hoping for a second place. And who is that going to promote behind them? Holland is going to take the lead.
Well, no, it looks like, yeah, Holland's going to stay out into the lead. That may give the position to Sigourney, potentially.
Possibly. Where is Fricke going to wind up? Fricke is pitting in now. Sigourney is going to overtake Fricke, I think. So Kim has just pitted in and is in the midst of service. William Kelly is back out now. Nix is long gone. Where will Holland come out in relation as well? Holland is still needs to take a stop and is up the road. Will Kelly, amazingly, is actually in front of Sigourney. So Sigourney may be not quite as far up as we anticipated, but he looks like 5th place, potentially 6th, depending on where Holland winds up. No, it should be 5th, actually, no matter what. So at worst, Peter Sigourney is 5th.
Yeah, that's a really good run for Sigourney in that number 6. There is Will Kelly back out onto the track. Crucially here, he's about 11 seconds behind Daniel Nix. So dare I say that's going to be a little bit done and dusted. For Peter Sigourney, though, only about 2.7 seconds behind Will Kelly. That is catchable here in the final 20 minutes of this race. I think we could see a little bit of a battle here for that final position.
We are down to only 15 cars left on the lead lap right now out of 41 starters. So there's been a lot of problems, and that has contributed to it. But you got to say that guys like Franznik have done a good job of really keeping the pace up. I think that'll stretch back to 16 on the lead lap because we're waiting on...
That's your leader!
Oh, no! Franznik is into the wall!
Oh, my goodness!
Drew Clayton. Did he do that on his own, or did he have help? I think he had a bit of help. I think it was David Boyer who spun across the track and caught him.
I think it was as well. There's Boyer right there. He tries to avoid it and just gets clipped with it, Joe. My goodness gracious, the dominant force in this race, finding himself in the outside barriers.
You are just not safe out there. You have got to keep your eyes peeled. Even our leader, who looked like he was having an immaculate race, found the lap traffic, unfortunately, making another victim out of him. He's had to take a tow. It's that bad. He could not drive it back, which is going to put him well down the order. Nix should inherit the lead then once we get Adam Holland in for his pit stop.
Well, let's give some credit here to Adam Holland. He is really and truly driving this car about as long as it will go. I didn't think we were going to get all the way down to this long of a stop, but color me surprised. This is a good job here from Holland.
Yeah, he's got about 5 more minutes, I think, maybe 4 more, before he is completely at the end of the fuel window. Antonio De Silva is still out without a pit stop from what I can tell. And then I think that should be it. There might be others, but I'm also seeing they have had black flags, so they may have already taken their pit stop in the meantime. Antonio De Silva is actually pitting in right now, so he is going to get his fuel and be done. So Nix should be leading. Will Kelly's actually still sitting in second, but you got to think the number 6 is going to be kicking himself. If he didn't have that incident, DJ, he could have been fighting for what was a potential victory here.
Yeah, he really could have been, and that's just goes to show you the margin for error around this Mosport circuit, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, absolutely next to nothing. It is just so close to be able to run around here, and so disappointing, I think, if you are Will Kelly in this position.
And that is Adam Holland finally into pit lane. Nix re-inherits the lead here on lap 34 with about 17 minutes left to go, with a gap of, my goodness, about 11 seconds over Will Kelly. That is very comfortable. And Peter Sigourney is behind Kelly by about 2 seconds. He could try and run him back down, but he's going to have to hustle from here to catch him back up. Where is Holland going to be back out? His stop's already done. Millerano coming up. Sigourney's gone by. Holland's in 4th. Millerano is going to be just behind Holland and in 5th place. Peter Sigourney, we predicted he'd be on the podium. It wasn't quite in the method that we thought he was going to get it, but he's there.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a matter of good consistency, keeping out on track, not letting anything come back to bite you, and just being calm, cool, and collected. I've got to give massive credit here to Peter Sigourney.
Same here. So just goes to show you can't give up on this one. You got to keep with it. And as we come back to the battle between Millerano and Holland again, Nick was our winner from the first event, so he wants to get a good finish here to help keep up that points run. It's not that long of a series, and you've got to try and maximize everything you can. A 4th is better than a 5th, but Adam Holland, after his good run today, up 12 positions, and that is legitimate. That's after the pit stop here that Adam Holland has just been picking him up and putting him down.
Well, let's also take a look back here at just a few positions behind that. Will Mungia up 26 on the day. Absolutely incredible stuff.
Nicely done. So we'll see if he can get a few more before all is over here today. Got a car coming into pit lane. That's Paul Nato. Not sure what's going on there. If he maybe had a black flag. Nope, he didn't. He's getting some sort of regular service, so must have already had a pit stop earlier on in the race from some damage and is now back in to serve a regular scheduled pit stop out there. But our driver's carrying on. Ironically, Peter Sigourney is behind James Franznik, but is now a lap ahead of him.
Yeah, that's just a little bit of, I think, probably insult to injury there for Franznik, but we will have to see as they continue to get themselves around right now what is going to play itself out. There we ride on board. You can see Franznik right up ahead.
If ever there was a testament to the drivers needing to really just try and keep safe and keep out of trouble, your leader, Daniel Nix, has had 0 incidents all race long. And is this a battle for position here with Franznik? This is side by side. And yes, it was. That was Costas in the 27. So that was a nice move through turn 1 to move Franznik back up to 18th, trying to make good a bad situation here.
Yeah, and that's just what you've got to do, Joe. You mentioned a little bit earlier how you've got to kind of just be able to keep your head down a little bit and not run into too many problems here, and think about the long run. Think about what the points situation is here for Franznik. 18th place is not great, but it's going to get him points, and that's just what he's got to focus on here at this point.
Yeah, next on his list is about 5 seconds up the road. It's Robert Walton in the number 2. That is doable. Depends on what his pace is like in comparison. Considering he grabbed the pole, got to think that he's got to have at least a little bit of an advantage. Meanwhile, Peter's 333 machine is threatening on Will Munguia, as you mentioned, up 26 positions, and Peter's going to try and put him down at least one of those.
Yeah, he's going to try to move his way up here. Going to tuck right up behind in the draft right now. Wait to see if he's going to be able to pull out there in the 333. Here he goes. I don't think he's got quite the run in the overlap that he'd like, and indeed, he's going to fall back into line.
He'll get more chances later. He just has to stick with it. That's Ankerberg Zona just behind them. That's not for position. And then the car coming into pit lane is David Boyer, who's serving a black flag right now. Peter follows in the tire tracks of the 907 down through turn 1. Drops off just a little bit from where he was before. He'll need to get closer if he wants a chance to attack.
He's going to have to try to close that in a little bit more. They've got plenty of room behind them, though. It does look like as David Palmer's about 19 seconds behind, so not really a problem there as they run.
Oh, no. Caraboccieri, unfortunately, off track. I think he managed to avoid hitting the wall coming out of 8 into 9, but he loses some positions with his spin. That's a bit sad because he was having a good race here today. He's down to 14th now, and he's got to worry about Charlie Boyer behind him, who has caught up because of that spin. By the way, that black flag that we mentioned with David Boyer, that was due to the incident with the former leader, Franz Dick.
Yeah, that's what that was. So looks like here that we've got a little bit of a battle starting to form itself up. Boccieri running around right now in the number 80 as he's trying to lead ahead of Charlie Boyer right now. Looks like he's got the speed to be able to keep that at bay for now.
Absolutely, and as they head into the hairpin once again, that's our leader behind him. That's Daniel Nix. So Boccieri is now our last car on the lead lap. We're down to only 14 left, and that might go down yet one more because I got to think that Daniel's just a little bit faster with 12 minutes left to go. He's probably going to be able to catch him. David Palmer in pit lane now. Does he have a black flag? No, he does not. Did he run into problems? Let me double check here.
I wonder, Joe, if Palmer may have been one of those ones that came into pit lane a little bit early to get damage repair done, maybe just took a top off of fuel, and now is finding himself at the end. That is idle speculation, though. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he's coming out after a sort of in-between stop there at about 11 seconds, so I think your suspicions are probably correct. So he'll return as another car a lap down, which means Boccieri gets promoted into 13th, but suddenly has a mirror full of the green and black number 16. We check in with Kim Fricke, who is still on the lead lap despite a penalty earlier in the race and is now caught up to Adam Holland to try to reclaim a top 5.
Yeah, he's trying to close in here. He's been relatively close and relatively consistent over the last couple of laps here. He's got that gap under 0.5 of a second and just trying to hold it here to the best of his abilities. I think he's probably waiting here, waiting for the opportune moment to really strike.
Let me give a little bit of credit to Chris Pippin. He had 16 minutes of repairs and is coming back out on track in 32nd place. He's about 4 laps down from the next driver up of Scott Rogers, so it's going to be hard going. Maybe only get that one position, maybe 2. We'll see. But credit, because I love seeing drivers get back out even if they, their race is effectively done, as long as they are running safe. Good to see them try and make it to the checkered flag just for the pride of that. Meanwhile, Daniel Nix, he's already seen one leader unfortunately lose the lead due to traffic, so he's got to play it safe here.
Yeah, he just wants to be nice and easy through this. He's got 9 seconds back to Will Kelly. He doesn't need to push too hard. And right now, that car directly up in front of him is Carl Boccieri. He does have Charlie Boyer behind him as well. Boyer's going to be wanting to try to get by to get into an attack on Boccieri. But I think here for Nix, just calmness is the key.
Indeed, with a 9-second lead, he doesn't need to push the issue. He needs to try and play it safe, preserve the car in these final 10 minutes. And just watch that Kelly doesn't catch up to him too quickly. So Daniel Nix after his first race. Where did he finish here? It looks like 28th, if I'm seeing right, in that first race. This is going to be a marked improvement for him in this race compared to Road Atlanta, as long as he keeps it safe. Fricky getting close to Holland here. Holland tries to defend by holding the middle of the road, gives the inside to Kim Fricky. Let's see if he can finish the job into the braking. Yes, he does. Kim back into the top 5. What's amazing about this is he's still a net gain of 8 positions despite having to serve that black flag earlier on.
Yeah, very, very impressive stuff from Fricky to be able to do that, holding on to the top 5 here. It just shows you his raw pace. And unfortunately here for him, I think this is going to be a big day of coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah, that added extra, I'd say about 15 seconds or so, probably would have put him, looks like probably within the podium, second or third up there. So kind of gave it away here today as we come back to Jason Finch in 10th. That's Komats in front of him, and then a battle for lower positions between David Boyer and Bob Moore, but Moore is not interested in trying to really press the issue with them, and he pulls off to the side and lets them through.
Yeah, good heads up there from him to let him on through. Here is Nick Melorano, maybe making a move on Will Kelly. Here comes Nick.
He's got a good run coming up into the S's. Gets the overlap under braking. He's going to have the inside potentially down into turn 9. Job's not done quite yet. Looks like Kelly's going to fight as hard as he can, but he's shallow now into White's corner, and that unfortunately compromises him. Melorano onto the podium.
Great run there from Nick Melorano, and with that move onto the podium, based off of my basic math here, that's going to keep him up ahead and into the lead of the championship going into round 3.
Well done from the 117. May not have had the qualifying, but it's not over. Look at this. Will Kelly's still with him. Oh, and he's having to defend coming up into Quebec. So I'd say that Nick is going to have to fight hard for this last few 7 minutes.
Yeah, I think he is too. I don't think Will Kelly has any indication of letting him out of this easily, and we've seen the pace out of that number 6 over the course of today. I think what the 117 has to do, though, at this point is just block out what's happening in the rearview mirror and be able to push himself ahead as best as possible.
Officially, we've had 11 retirements of the 41 starters in this race. I'm not sure if we've got a few that unofficially are out of it and aren't going to be able to return before all is said and done. So we watch them come into the S's once again. Melorano ahead of Kelly, now much farther than before. Looks like he's been able to give himself a nice little gap. Greg Sampson's in pit lane. I wonder if that's another driver that just needs to take a second stop because of an early incident. Meanwhile, back to Jason Finch once again, still challenging for 9th position, and this time has a very, very good bit of momentum coming up the Andretti straight. And in fact, I don't think he's even going to have to outbrake him. Look at this. Komats has no answer. Finch is through.
Yeah, right on through there. Finch being able to do that. Remember, he was involved in a little bit of the wars out here earlier today, so a good run for him to be able to keep everything nice and in order.
So as they get ready to cross the line, they're actually not too far ahead of our leader, Daniel Nix, because he's actually coming into the S's right now with 5 minutes left to go. I think we are at 4 laps left now for Daniel Nix, and then this race is over. There he is on your screen, and Ankerberg Zona, unfortunately, is off in what looked like Clayton Corner. Not sure what caused that, though.
Yeah, not sure either, but that definitely looked like a little bit of an incident that we've seen as James Franznik, just for good measure, by the way, Joe, setting the fastest lap of the race. Once again, just going to show us now Melorano immediately takes that away from him.
Wow. It feels like Melorano maybe missed a bit of a trick here. If he qualified a little bit better, I wonder if he would have been challenging for the win here today, because he's about 15 seconds off of Daniel Nix, and considering he had to pass about 3 cars to get up to this 3rd place, I'm sure that did not help him. Franznik, in the meantime, Currently down in 16th spot, still a lap down from the leader. But like you said, running extremely impressive laps and actually getting close to getting 15th. He's about 2 seconds behind from Walton.
Yeah, he's going to have to hustle here a little bit to try to make it, I think, before the drop of the checkered flag. But he's certainly got the shot with the pace that we've seen France Nick have here today.
There's your leader coming to the line. Now down to what I believe should be 3 laps to go here. And still at a handy 11.3 seconds over Sigourney. It was down to 9 before us, but I wonder if the traffic unfortunately hit the 014 as well. He is about 3.5 seconds ahead of Millerano, so not really a fight amongst any of the podium sitters, unless you count Will Kelly, who remains about 2 seconds behind Millerano.
Yeah, he's about 2 seconds behind there, and we'll have to see if he's able to get anything there. But I think Millerano has just been pulling away slowly but surely since he made that move. So it may be a champion. It may be a situation here where we see Kelly's chances of a podium just slipping away from him.
Remember I mentioned about Chris Pippen. He's moved up to 30th spot, but I don't think he's got enough laps to get anyone after this. So he definitely gained quite a few. Credit to that 042 car for not giving it up and sticking with it, because he's still out there and circulating despite being 15 laps down from the leader. Battle for 7th position once again. Munguia up 26 spots with Peter Kummer just behind him, and has been a threat for probably a good dozen laps here at the end of the race. Peter continuing to look mighty close. In fact, this is the closest we've seen him yet.
Yes, it is. Is he going to have a little bit of a run here on Munguia? Let's see. Almost looks like a bump draft there coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway, and pokes his nose, pushes his nose down to the inside. The 333 going to try it. Not looks like it's going to work.
Nope, the door is shut, so not going to happen this time by. Peter will have to try again later. We got a car off. This is the 80 of Boccieri. Oh no, another incident here late in the race. Where is he now? He is dropping positions, trying to get back on track. He's now to 18th and looking for some sort of opening. Back up to the battle between Peter and Will for that 7th spot. A little bit farther away than before, about half a second between them.
Yeah, a little bit more to play. I think Peter's best chance here, his best run, is coming off of the Moss hairpin. It looks like he's able to carry just a lot more speed that way and loses a little bit coming down through the S's, so he may have to change his strategy here a little bit if he really wants to get that move to work.
I may have called it a little bit wrong. I think we are 2 laps to go. Yes, 2 laps to go for Daniel Nix. He just crossed the line now, so he'll get one more than I would have anticipated. Let's hope that he did the fuel enough that he's got enough to make it to the end. Looks like Peter has managed to get that spot, but a little bit easier than he thought it would be, as Will had a little bit of an issue trying to get the throttle down coming out of the Moss hairpin. So gave that spot up, and that battle fizzles.
I was just say bottle fizzles. I wasn't sure what that was entirely, but here is your leader of the race right now, Daniel Nix. A little bit of lap traffic directly in front of him. That's going to be Craig Smith. He's going to get a nice heaping of the draft here coming down at the back straightaway. Probably be able to pull out to the outside there. Yeah, clearly making his intentions known. He's going to move out there. I would have to imagine the 74 is going to give him a little bit of a lift here coming down into the S's.
Yes, he does. So there goes Nix on by. Only 11 cars left on the lead laps. De Silva's a long way ahead, so not sure that he is going to get another. But what he will get is the white flag as he comes to the line. Barney waving it furiously to signal 1 to go for Daniel Nix. He started on the front row, didn't have that great of a start, and looked like he was going to be under threat. He didn't let it faze him. He basically ran his own race, and as long as he's good around this one final circuit, he is going to take a victory.
Yeah, well, I mean, doing that is easier said than done, Joe. Let's knock on wood here if you are a fan of Daniel Nix.
Yeah, it's not over till he reaches that checkered flag. But as I said, he's got a ways to go to any more traffic in front of him. Just has to be calm and collected here. at the end. Oh no, Will Kelly on the final lap coming through Clayton Corner is going to lose out on the podium and lose out on the top 5 even. That was a driver error. Nobody around, spun it on his own, unfortunately. And we take it once again back to Daniel Nix here up to the S's one last time. Daniel Nix in the 16 wasn't able to perform at the first race back at Road Atlanta, but he's not letting that determine his rest of the season. He has bounced back in a big way by taking victory here today at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
A great run there for Nix. You can see that celebration, and Sigourney looks like he's losing a lot of time to Nick Melorano, just barely able to cross over the line. They're only 2/10 ahead. That gap came down like nobody's business.
Indeed, it wound up being a lot closer than we anticipated. Fricky just outside of the podium, but still a 4th place in spite of a black flag. Signs of the speed under the 66. Holland going to round out the top 5. Nicely done for him. Peter Kummer, because of that pass he made and because of the incident with Kelly, is going to get 6th place. So very well done to him. But only 11 cars will wind up on the lead lap here.
Absolutely remarkable. It really goes to show you just the pace that Daniel Nix and the rest of that leading group had here today, and just how many drivers found themselves falling afoul of this ever tricky Mosport circuit.
While the 16 celebrates, we're going to take a quick break here on Podium Esports. Stick around because we'll have the driver interviews as well as the unofficial results coming your way. A little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way. Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Mosport, as we're used to, gobbled up a lot of drivers today, but Daniel Nix was not amongst them. He drove from the front row to a victory as Peter Sigourney managed 2nd place and Nick Melorano wound up 3rd. We believe that's going to retain the points lead for Nick. Kim Fricky had a black flag at one point, a drive-through penalty, and still came home in 4th ahead of Adam Holland, who was 5th today. And then Peter Kummer was up 21 spots there in 6th, but that was managed to be upped by Will Munguia in the number 907 with 26 points positions gained to finish 7th. Jason Fitch matched that to finish in 8th out there today. Steve Komatz was 9th, and Antonio De Silva rounds out your top 10.
In 11th place, it was Will Kelly, who was the last driver to finish on the lead lap, despite being up in the top 3, having the issues that caught him out. Then entering the drivers that finished the lap down, Craig Smith, Robert Walton, James Franznick, David Palmer, Christopher Costas, Carl Boccieri, Gregory Sampson, Jeff Williams, and Joseph Evers round out your top 20.
From there, Rosenthal was the last one lap down, and there was a lot of drivers with issues, including many DNFs here today on the rest of the field. Unfortunately, it looks like we will get to talk to Daniel Nix, though, about his win and see what he thinks of having to try and race through all the chaos that we witnessed out there today. Daniel, it looked like the start wasn't your best. You lost that 2nd place initially, but you didn't let it phase you. You came back, and in the end, when others fell by the wayside, you kept it on the black stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually part of my strategy, studying the opponents. I was going to give up that spot early on and play back. Some of those guys are a little more aggressive, and it ended up working out in the long run for me.
Now, we got the pleasure of getting to watch your webcam there as you came across the line to take the victory, and clearly it looked like it meant a lot to you. Was this one an important win to you?
Yeah, this is my first league I've ever entered. I just got into sim racing a couple months ago. The first race, I didn't get my opportunity. I got taken out in the first corner of the race. So today I really wanted to prove myself. And like I said, it paid off today, all the hard work, and really happy to have that first place, have that podium today.
Well, based on the mindset you just described about trying to just get to the finish and the fact that you are so new to sim racing, you have a bright future in esports because that is impressive that you're already winning in leagues. So, I mean, taking that into consideration, next time out, I hope you're ready for a challenge, because if you thought this was tough, we've got Detroit's Belle Isle Circuit up next.
Yeah, I'm excited to give it a go. I've never raced that track. I haven't even seen it. So like I said, I'm new to this. So I have a good strategy, a good game plan. I have some amazing coaches. We have Nikki with last 10th, and I have a great team. Jesse Lyon, he's one of my coaches. And then of course, VRS and all those tools available as well. So we have a good strategy. I think we can do it again in a couple weeks here on race 3.
All right, we'll look out for you, Daniel. Congratulations on a win, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you more often.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Daniel Nix, your winner. DJ's caught up with the man that was behind him, Peter Sigourney, up from 8th to P2.
Yeah, Peter, a great run up through the field, but I want to start at the end of the race there for you. It looks like things got a little bit close between yourself and Nick Melorano. What was happening there? Peter, do you have a copy?
Not sure if we'll get to talk to Peter here. We'll give him a second to see if he's got his microphone up and ready. Peter, do you have a copy? Oh, looks like he does not. So in the meantime, DJ's... Oh, we'll give it one more try. Peter, one more try. Do you have a copy here? Doesn't look like it. Sad to see. We'll see if we can get that sorted out later. DJ does also have Nick Melorano, who managed to repeat a podium, but not a win this time.
Yeah, Nick, a good fight up through the field. I want to start at the beginning of the race, though, for you. What happened to you in qualifying? Looks like you were a little bit off the pace.
This is just a tricky track for me. I think since a lot of the corners are pretty much push all you got and then hope you don't die, which obviously was tougher in the race. I was having a hard time even getting it down to the low 14. So I was lucky to start kind of up towards the front, but it's a tough track.
Well, then, in being able to navigate through all of the traffic there, it looked like you were really close to being able to close in on the back of Peter Sigourney. When you got into the race, was it all just about trying to be able to push your way ahead?
For me, it was just trying to survive. Again, every corner here is life or death corner. And so, keeping the times close, there was a really good battle, all through the first part of the race. And then, chaos happened all over the place. So I tried to just stay alive, pick it up where I could. Obviously, had a few big offs and then became a recovery drive that then turned into a push for the podium at the end. So...
Well, you certainly did a good job to be able to get your way up for it. And speaking of races that are every corner a little bit tricky, Detroit next up, a street circuit, very bumpy, very notorious to punish you. How do you think that's going to go?
I can't imagine it going very well. The only car that I've raced that in was the Renault 3.5, which is probably a worse car to drive there. But I know that's going to be another tough one, and it's just going to be tight for sure.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world when you get there, Nick. But as for today,
Thanks.
Who makes this possible for you?
Well, I just want to say thanks to my spotter, Nick Facciolo, my wife and 2 dogs who are, keeping the house running while I sit down here for an hour at a time to race and practice. PCA, our title sponsors, of course, the last 10th, and you guys for putting this on. It's all part of the experience, and it's a ton of fun. So, and of course, everyone else driving too. Like, it's always fun to see such a big group of people come out and race all at one time, and you guys make that possible. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Nick Melorano. That was Nick Melorano, your third place finisher here today.
Which is sadly going to wrap up our interviews. We'll try Peter again some other time. But in the meantime, we'll see you tomorrow night for the challenge class at 9:25 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, October 27th, live here on Podium Esports. We'd like to thank the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9, which of course includes Pirelli and Six Sigma Sim Racing, as well as a huge thank you to LastTenth.com. Better car, better driver. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. And also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, which includes Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.